Welcome back to the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour. Three-way action getting underway here at the final table of the EPT London main event. Just before that short break, the three remaining players did do a deal. The general consensus, Joe Stapleton, on Twitter is that Ruben Visser got a very good deal, guaranteed second place money, and only loses 105,000 if he wins.
Yeah, I want to thank Tudor for writing in, who said basically Mantis gave Ruben 20K for his edge plus skill on top of ICM, which seems reasonable and fine given his super skills.
So first hand of three-handed play, Vizotskis raises to 175,000. Visser defends his big blind. He checks to Vizotskis, who will c-bet on that king, queen, queen flop. And Ruben calls.
John tweets in to say, I think these players going to regret this deal? Question mark.
Nine of spades on the turn. Ruben checks a second time. Is Mantis going to bet the second time? Yes, he will. A reminder of chip denominations. Blues are 5,000, yellows are 25,000, the green and blacks are 100,000. And a reminder, if you have just joined us on EPT Live and want to know how the tournament's gone so far, how we got down from 8 to 3, you can read back on the live updates. You can read the reports on the PokerStarsblog.com. So a bet on the turn wins it for Vizotskis. Let's welcome in our next guest on EPT Live. He tweeted earlier that he was coming on, and he's lived up to his promise. From Team PokerStars Pro, Daniel Negreanu in the booth.
Hello, gentlemen. You know, integrity is important to me, so obviously when I tweeted I was going to come, I decided to show up. What do you know?
You also tweeted that you were going on a sightseeing tour of London, which you didn't quite manage.
It was the integrity for other people.
Integrity destroyed.
Well, I am going to do this. I didn't specify what time, and I will do this before I leave London. So I just walked in, and they made a deal already, huh? Something that I'm not a big fan of personally, but I guess it makes sense for those that don't really care. I mean, for me, I've always felt like there's an advantage to not making a deal.
All I would say, and obviously we get a lot of people, as you can imagine, Daniel, on Twitter and email, who are very anti-deals being made. It's very easy game played from the rail. All I would say is they are still playing, not just for an EPT title, but they are still playing for £140,000. And I'd imagine that most people watching will never in their lifetime probably play for £140,000.
No, absolutely. I understand financially why it makes sense for most people to do it. I've always
Do you understand financially, Daniel? How much do you think a loaf of bread costs?
$85.
$85? Yeah, $85, $100?
Well, no, when I started playing, and I was broke, and I had less money than Joe Stapleton, I used to play tournaments out all the way. Like, I never made a deal. Even when I was 22, 23 years old, I always decided that it was the best way for me because I liked my shorthanded advantage. And in the long run, I figured it would even out.
Should remind you that Daniel is happy to answer your questions. You can email nuts@pokerstars.tv. You can tag your tweets EPT Live. And a reminder that we have a caption competition going, which will pick up a little while. Let's see how three-handed play pans out.
Now, I'm assuming, I haven't been watching the broadcast, but I'm assuming you've made reference to the bow tie?
Of course.
Not as much as we should have, though, so please, have at it.
That is, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a cool look. I like it.
Now, Mantis is a very proud Lithuanian. He's got a lot of Lithuanian poker fans railing him on EPT Live, and obviously he's wearing two of the three colours of the Lithuanian flag in that bow tie.
I think it's cool. It's different. It's unique.
He's wearing green and yellow, but if you make fun of Lithuania, they see red. So he's got them all.
Ba-dum-pum.
So this has been 3-bet here. He button raised to 175,000. Blinds are still at 40-80, by the way. Vizotskis has made it 475 total. We're about to see how Ruben will respond to that 3-bet. And the answer is by 4-betting.
What's the sizing there? I can't.
It's 4 bets to 375. Sorry, to 475.
No, that was a 3-bet. The 4 bets to 980.
So another 500,000. This is interesting. The chip stacks are all pretty close. That they would give Ruben such a, nice little advantage of giving him extra money on top of that in the deal.
And what I'm interested in, which I don't really know the answer to, and maybe Daniel doesn't either because he doesn't make deals, is just how much of the bloodlust, how much of the sort of the hunger for winning this tournament goes away once you have a certain dollar amount locked up.
Well, I think that's really depends heavily on the type of person. You know,
Right.
Like Phil Hellmuth, it doesn't matter if he's playing for $1 or nothing. If it's for a bracelet, you know, he'll kill for it. Where other people just don't really care as much about the title and all that. So really, I guess it just depends on that.
I mean, but maybe some people, maybe they don't give up. Maybe since they have money locked up, they can play better. Maybe they can play a little more aggressive.
Well, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to make deals, is I felt like it sort of relieved people of certain types of financial pressure. And it looks like a 5-bet. Is that right? Or did he call?
Looks like a 5-bet to
Yeah.
me.
That's a
Here we
5-bet.
go.
So here come the clicking wars.
The young crazies.
Like, does this hand play out the same way if there's no deal? Probably not.
It depends what they have, obviously, but
1.6 million, and Visser announces all in.
so that was a light 5-bet and a real 6-bet, most likely.
So Ruben Visser extends his chip lead at the final table.
I mean, I can remember going back to the late 90s where I played in a tournament where all three of us were about even in chips. And I raised, and every time I'd raise, the guy would look up at the prize pool to see what it was. And both of them kept doing that. So in about 45 minutes, just from raising, I had 80% of chips, and they each had 10% of the chips. And they both were asking for a deal every other hand. And I kept saying no, and I mean, I literally won the tournament by default, in a sense. The guy who was in second place was like, hey, just glad to be here.
Visser now up to 8.76 million. Earlier, Liv Barry was with us, Daniel, and she refused to give people restaurant recommendations in London. But Christian Faulkner asks, Daniel, what do you feel is the best city in the world for vegetarian eating? Obviously, you are a vegan, but vegetarians kind of fall under a similar bracket. So where would you recommend someone goes if they want good vegetarian/vegan dining?
Well, if you're in Europe, there is one place and one place only. That is London. I stay in Soho, and there are tons of amazing options. A place called Vita Organic. I just ate there literally 20 minutes ago, and I'm there pretty much every day. And even at some of the hotels, they have a vegan menu. So London's great, and there's definitely all over California is usually pretty good. Los Angeles in the United States, but I love the food in London. Most people told me it sucked, but I love it.
Nah, they just don't know where to go. I think you do struggle, though, in a lot of stops on the EPT. I mean, the Spanish love their meat, the Germans love their meat, so when you're going to other stops on the EPT, you often have been known to complain, shall we say, using social media platforms.
Yeah, I definitely
Well, let's
think
call it expressing himself.
Yeah, San Remo's a tough city for me, and so was most places in France. They do a lot of butter and cream and cheese, which I'm sure is yummy, but it's not for me.
A lot of people asking on Twitter, Daniel, if we actually will see you at the German leg of the EPT. Any plans to play Berlin?
I just made my schedule, and I will be at Monte Carlo for sure. And I'm actually not going to be able to make it to Berlin this year, but I'd love to make it because it's actually a tournament I keep skipping because it hasn't fallen well for me in the schedule.
9!
It's a great city. Good if you like sausages, obviously not so good for you.
Yeah, thanks. No, there's actually Germany apparently is got a big vegetarian population as well, from what I've heard.
So Hageland's raised the button here, and Ruben Visser keeping up the pressure, 3-betting from the small blind.
I mean, for the little time I've been here, this seems like it's been super aggressive pre-flop. Not typical of what I'd normally see. And maybe that has, maybe the deal has some sort of...
Well, the deal, and then also this is, they just started 3-handed, so it's possible it could have been this aggressive without the deal. Sure. But, it's just 2 hands.
Also, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it feels like, each player is relatively deep. So there's a lot of room to, make these 3, 4, and 5 bets without actually risking their entire stack, as we saw earlier.
I love this tweet from Frank. What is the point of even watching anymore? They're playing for an EPT title and 6-figure sum. That's £140,000, not dollars.
Yeah, I've always found that interesting, where people it matters to them if someone's playing for $1 million or $100,000, when it's just the game is not going to change. For our challenge that we had, the Poker Stars versus Full Tilt Challenge, I mean, the amount we were playing for was pretty irrelevant. It was really just everyone tried their best. And they would have for 50,000 or $1 million.
I actually asked that question quite a bit, but I'd take your word for it above anybody's.
And the key thing is you cannot deal for the title itself, and that comes with a lot of prestige.
Absolutely. And a lot of people say, yeah, no, I don't really care about that stuff. And they're just lying. They're just lying, trying to look cool, yeah, I'm all about the money, yo.
So with Hageland calling Visser's 3-bet pre.
Lucky for them, the most money usually comes with the title.
Yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand.
They see a flop of 8-9 deuce with 2 spades, and Ruben has continued for 540,000.
This is a really tough spot, a tough flop for Visser's hand, because it's a very connected board to a lot of calling hands in Hagelin's range. 8-9, a couple spades. He could float here with anything, like even King Jack or something like that. And that's another card that would really hit Hagelin's range. I would expect Visser to check here a really high percentage of the time. It's hard to imagine, a range of hands where he should be betting this turn card. Unless he's, 3-bet with kind of a fun hand like 9-10 or Queen Jack himself. Visser, from what I remember him, he's very, very aggressive though. So it wouldn't shock me to see him bet. I just don't think it's likely. But he's going to bet.
Well, all of this gets a lot harder three-handed, and with aggressive players.
Well, I actually think here, no matter what he bets, Hagelin should just call anyway, at the very least, unless he smashed it and should raise, because there's so many cards, if he doesn't have anything, he can represent on the river. Spades, straight cards, all kinds of stuff. Oh, it's a big bet, 1.26 million. Hagelin, he can't afford to make this call, either if he actually does have a draw or to represent one of the 2 draws that's present. The diamonds are much more difficult to represent, obviously. You would have to have a very specific holding.
So you have to have a plan for the river, though. So what do you do when you just call here and then you brick the river and then Ruben fires again?
Well, yeah, that would be kind of like wave the white flag, I would think.
So you're saying if you do have any think you have any equity here, though, you should probably call.
Oh, for sure. I mean, there's also the possibility Visser here is betting a draw himself. Like he could have a hand like Ace Queen of Spades, and have a gut shot and a flush draw, or even Ace Jack of Spades, which is a big hand. He can actually call it off too if he's raised. Or there's a possibility he just has nothing. But I doubt that. It just seems like if Visser's line is really strong, 3-bet, bet this flop, and still bet the turn.
Yeah.
One thing it is it's polarized. He rarely has just like, King 8 or something like that, or Ace, or 2 7s or something like that. I don't see him having either of those kind of hands. Looks like Hagelin's going to call. All right, I like this play. Now Visser's going to have to guess on a lot of these rivers.
4.5 million in the middle. Hagelin with less than a pot-sized bet behind. The river.
Okay, so there's a card that it's a harder one to represent, the 7 than the Jack. But it's still potentially believable if he had a hand like 7-8. Okay, well, Visser's checking. Check, check. He has kings. Okay, he had a real hand, so that makes a lot of sense. The board got scary. He wanted to protect it, But that's like pretty much he's going to have at least jacks there, I would think, to bet that turn. Or any of his value hands is going to be at least Ace 10 or jacks.
Huge pot for Visser, up to 11 million in chips now. Hagelin down to 4.4 million. Visotskis in 3rd place with 3.9 million. By the way, quick update from the high roller. Remember, there's another final table being played out on the floor of the Grosvenor Victoria Casino this afternoon. They're down to 3 players. Talal Shakirchi, Faraz Jaka, Paul Volpe, and Fabian Quas. 4 players. My apologies.
I bet they're not going to ruin it by making a deal.
Sorry, it is 3 players. Paul Volpe's out. Shakirchi, Jaka, and Quas are the last 3 players remaining. Should say that if you do want to follow that action with more accurate reporting than what I just gave you, go to the PokerStars blog and check out the live update section.
Michael's written in with another poem, James. At EPT London, they made a deal. It was transparent and completely real. Lithuanian, Dutch, and a Swede while we watch on the live feed.
Michael, that's your best effort yet.
That was incredible. That was great. You guys, that was awesome.
Daniel easily impressed.
I am. By the tie, by the poem.
Raise and take it for Visser. So let's remind you of our caption competition on EPT Live. Joe and I had a go at replicating the infamous Mike McDonald stare, and we want your amusing captions to this photograph. Here are some more suggestions which have been tweeted in the last hour or so. Nick's caption, why did we trade in Liv Barry for this guy? Luke's suggestion, James is saying, how are you, Mike? Mike's saying, young, rich, and successful. Thanks for asking. Donovan's suggestion, what you talking about, Mike? Yeah, I probably didn't do that one justice. Tristan, his caption is, regardless of the obvious tell, Mike still can't get a read on either of his opponents. And Barney is saying that James is saying, touch his microphone. Oh, I see. I was wondering how long it would be before someone decided to get lewd. Chris has a question for you on the emails, Daniel. Have you ever thought of getting into poker commentating when/if you retire as a player? I think you, Stapes, and James would make a great team, smiley face.
Thanks for the subtle needle, because I haven't cashed a tournament in 2013. That's where he was going with that, obviously. I like doing commentary. I enjoy it, but it's not something Doyle Brunson is 80 years old. He hasn't retired. I'll retire when I'm like 6 feet under, I think.
You can combine the two. You can play and commentate.
Yeah, why not? Sure.
We had someone write in from Serbia, Daniel. It says, Daniel, come to Serbia. Here is the best food in the world. I'm paying for everything.
Oh, awesome. Serbian sausage. That's right up my alley.
Hang on a second. There is a sting in the tail. He says, although I have no money, I will borrow.
That's really cool.
Daniel loves a deal.
Yeah.
Didn't we have a guy earlier on who was offering Daniel pasta? Yes, it was Enza. Dear Mr. Negreanu, if I come to the Victoria Casino, can you give me an autograph for one of your Italian fans? I will bring you some pasta.
I'd be happy to give him the autograph. I'll pass on the pasta.
Pasta's not vegan. A lot of eggs in pasta,
Well,
usually.
some is.
Do you think the Italians are having vegan pasta,
Vegan
Daniel?
pasta. Vegan pasta with a little mozzarella on top and some lamb.
Some meatballs.
You guys ever see My Big Fat Greek Wedding? I'm assuming both of you have.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah. You know the part where I'm talking about? He's vegetarian? What? You don't eat meat? Oh, that's okay. I make lamb.
I make lamb.
It reminded me of my mother. When I became a vegetarian, she cried. And then on Christmas, she begged me as a Christmas gift to just eat turkey and the meat just for that day.
I believe it's Gordon Ramsay who refers to vegetarians as fussy eaters. A lot of people are actually asking, Daniel, why you're vegan and when you decided to make that decision.
I became a vegetarian first, and it was for health reasons. I didn't feel good when I ate meat, and I switched to a vegetarian diet, and I felt better. And then I realized I wasn't eating that much healthier, so I cut out all the dairy because there's just no reason to eat that stuff. Like dairy, I mean, whether you're meat eater or not, there's just nothing really good about it for you. In my opinion, and most doctors. But yeah, so I just went all the way vegan. And it's easier obviously when you have somebody cooking for you, but...
I will say this, and I've thought about the vegan stuff a lot, Daniel, through all of our discussions and watching, your diet and stuff. I will say that although I enjoy meat and I like it, I can definitely see us as a society one day evolving to a point where we don't have to kill anymore for our food. There's a lot of things that we did hundreds and thousands of years ago that we look back on as barbaric now, and I could see us as a society, hopefully one day, thinking the same way about, wow, can you believe we used to kill animals?
Well,
scientists
have actually said that. I read this thing. It was an independent study. This was not a vegan study, where they said that within, I think, 30 to 40 years, unless people were getting like less than 5% of their protein from animal, the world can't sustain it, is what they're saying. That the shift is already happening, and it's going to happen at a much more alarming rate in the next 20 to 30 years. So I'm just ahead of the curve.
But don't they say that we're supposed to, like, that to sustain the world's population, we're all going to be surviving on kelp one day or something like that?
Kelp? I don't know what you're eating. I don't even know what kelp is.
We have to look to the oceans.
What is kelp?
It's like brine. Like
what is brine?
It's like little tiny shrimp that like whales swim through the ocean, sucking in.
Sounds yummy.
It's like little sea creatures.
By the way, the last few hands have been either raise and take it or walks, but Janne Salonen wants us to actually focus on the poker, and he says, here's a new caption picture idea. Don't do them anymore.
That's my favorite one.
Who would have guessed he's finished, eh?
That's good. So how do you like living in London, Stapes?
I like it a lot. I say that London is so cool that it makes you forget about all the stuff that sucks about it.
Oh.
You've always been a big fan of the city, Daniel, not just because of the food.
No, I love London. I mean, I don't like the weather. That would be my biggest complaint, but it's not really anyone here's fault, as far as I know.
I actually have a button. I can control it.
AJ wrote in to say he can't believe Stapes is this big of an adult, and that was before I said the dumb stuff about kelp, so I don't even know what he was talking about.
Well, it looks like in the last 10, 15 minutes here, Visser's really opened up the lead. The chip stack, he's got 11 million. He's got more than half the chips in play. So he's kicking up the aggression level.
And there's a 3-bet from Hagland, who doesn't re-raise pre that often.
You know, it's a dangerous spot when you're playing three-handed to re-raise out of the big blind against the button, especially with what a lot of the younger guys do is they raise such small amounts that it opens up the opportunity when you're in position to call with a much wider range of hands. And I find it's like really difficult to make that a profitable play long term, especially if you do it too often.
So obviously, Daniel, you join us at the end of what's been a long week for us. I'm not sure if you're aware, but Stapes and I have been live streaming every single day of this EPT main event, just as we did in Deauville, taking EPT Live to the next level every single day of the tournament. We are here, and we're going to do the same in Berlin. Sadly, Daniel won't be with us, but we'll also be doing it at the Grand Final in Monaco, where we may be joined by Mr. Negreanu. So make sure you're watching from the 21st of April. That's when the next EPT kicks off. 21st of April, live from the German capital. Live coverage of that leg of the EPT on PokerStars.tv.
Speaking of Monte Carlo, by the way, this year,
yeah,
something different. There's gonna be like cash games, and you can spread whatever you want. And for those wondering, it's actually a very small, reasonable rake. I think what last I heard was 3% up to $15 max in all the games. So I think you'll see a lot of fun action. And basically, like they said, you can spread any kind of games you want, which means open-face Chinese for a lot of the degens.
We were discussing it with Neil Johnson, PokerStars live event specialist, a little bit earlier on, and of course, I said to Neil, it's one of those things that people have been complaining about for years that we don't have at Monaco, and of course, Neil, with his frustrated face, has to say to people, you don't think we'd have them if we could? You know, it was obviously something that had to be agreed with the regulatory authorities, and now it has been signed off on. It's going to be an awesome festival in May.
King Jack 9, 2 diamonds. Visser the pre-flop raiser.
By the way, Stapes, you are being corrected by virtually the entire internet.
Yeah, they got it.
Kelp is seaweed. The stuff you were talking about is krill.
Yep.
Oh, krill. I've heard of krill.
Krill Gerasimov.
Yeah.
So Visser's raise from the small blind was called by Mantis Vysotskis pre. Visser continues for 240,000. Vysotskis flat. The board pairs on the turn.
You would expect here Vysotskis to bet all of his the hands that he was going to float with, all of his bluffs, and probably some of his gut shots and draws. I would expect him to check back a jack and only bet, he's only going to bet value hands and missed draws and floats, I would think, at this point. Or, obviously, quads. Probably bet that, too. This is just one of those perfect examples of how playing the small blind is such a difficult spot when you raise coming in and you have an opponent who's going to defend a lot of the big blind. You bet the flop, and they call, and now you're just kind of in no man's land a lot. But Visser is calling, so he's got to have a piece of that board.
Ten of diamonds on the river.
Blank. Is that what they call that, a blank? Looks like Vysotskis is going to bet this one. I like this bet no matter what he has. He pretty much can't check. I mean, the only kind of hands he can check are hands like just a king. I think you can turn a jack into a bluff here. 3 nines he wouldn't bet, but he should bet a straight or better, and then complete air if he has that. Not the biggest bet in the world, 700,000. There's 2.6 million in the pot total.
He has a little more than a third of the pot.
All right, with Visser thinking here, I think he's just looking to make a hero call with a nine or with a jack or a king. Obviously, with a straight, if he had that, he's gonna call quickly. He called.
9, announces Vysotskis.
Wow, he does value bet the 9.
All right, well, that's a good bet. Once it's checked to him, you know, Visser's got to bet his straight there on that river. He can't dog it. So the 9 has to be the nuts, pretty much. Obviously, if he gets check raised, you know, he's pretty much got to fold as well.
And Ruben's calling him with a king.
King or a jack. You know, I don't think that he had... The king or the jack is pretty close to the same hand in that spot, because you don't think Vysotskis is going to bet a jack anyway.
By the way, Joe, have you registered for the free roll yet?
No, I haven't. Is it filling up?
Yeah, it is filling up fast. Oval is the password for today's EPT Live free roll. That's OVAL, all lowercase. Oval is the password that will get you into that game, which you'll find in the EPT section of the Stars tournament lobby. 23,500 players. Remember, it's maxed at 30,000 runners, so register now.
You guys can't play the Micro Millions because you've been busy, huh?
Exactly.
I played
Jonathan
one.
Duhamel just tweeted that he's playing in a 4-cent tournament right now. I think that's awesome.
I played one event by accident.
By accident?
I registered and then realized I didn't want to play, and as I was trying to unregister, it started. The Zoom tournament.
Oh, Zoom tournament. I want to play one of those. That sounds fun. Yeah.
Albert's got a question for you on the emails, Daniel, nuts at pokerstars.tv. Daniel, will you be playing in the big one for one drop, which will take place at the 2014 World Series?
Well, I did play in the first $1 million buy-in event, and this year they're having a $111,111 buy-in thing. So I'll be playing in that. As far as the million, I plan to. It's almost a year and a half from now, 2 years. I wouldn't put up the whole million myself. I'll probably sell pieces as I did this year, unless I'm doing fabulously well, and then I'll just go for it, which I plan on being, plan on doing fabulously well.
Button raise from Mantis. And Olaf is 3-betting out of the small blind. Ruben Visser gives up the big blind.
Yeah, the way these guys are playing three-handed, it's actually playing a lot more like limit hold'em. You're not seeing anybody flat from the small blind, or not even flatting from the big blind. It's just a lot of 3-bet, boom, boom, smash, smash, 4-bet. Pretty aggressive poker.
And the 3-bet gets through.
And I think everyone's got the freedom to do that, A, because they're deep, and B, because I think the deal definitely affects that.
Yeah, I don't know too much. I think that, these guys are going to play poker the way they're going to play poker, and they're still playing for money. It may not be as much.
Is there that big of a difference between 3- and 4-handed? Because
yeah,
it really wasn't happening like this.
No, I definitely think there is. I think three-handed is one of the most awkward forms of poker. You're always kind of in the small blind is a super awkward spot. The button is kind of awkward because you have to be playing so many hands. And then the big blind, every position is difficult to play three-handed. I don't think anyone's really written the book on the best way to play three-handed. There's a lot of talk about 6-max play, heads-up play, but three-handed is really, really difficult, I think, especially with 3 aggressive players like this.
Nuno on Twitter says, nice to hear, Daniel. I blame his TV appearances for me starting to play poker. I'm a fan of your little YouTube videos. Keep it up. I think he means your rants, Daniel.
Yeah, I plan on doing one from here in London. As long as the internet connection's up, I'll upload it sometime this week.
Give the man some water, quick. We're losing Negreanu. Zartskis winning that one with a bet on the flop. I want to get your opinion on something that Joe has created, Daniel. Mr. Stapleton believes that 2013 is the year of Romania.
Year of Romania.
The year of Romania?
In terms of poker, that we are going to see a Romanian EPT champion. We're going to see Romanians have their best year in poker yet.
Multiple Romanian champions.
Yeah, there's been so many great young Romanian players coming out that that I've actually gotten to know a little bit, and they've had really, really good success. Also, even on the W Coupe, there was a few Romanians who won. I think there was at least one who won a W Coupe bracelet. So I like your pick.
Year of Romania.
Year of Romania. Da. Vine toți din România. Aoleu.
I hope you didn't just swear.
No, I didn't curse. I was very careful not to curse.
I actually know the swear words.
Yeah,
I know when I hear them, at least.
I brought Stapes to Romania one time, and just gave him the bare minimum on all the curse words he needed to know.
I actually told that story that you took me to Romania, which is why I think I loved it so much, because they treat you like royalty there, you being Daniel Negreanu. And we were playing this free roll. I got free rolled into a tournament. And at one point, Daniel leans over and he goes, hey, you know what this is paying? It was like 3-table tournament. And I go, what? He goes, 20. I was like, oh, well, it pays $20. Like, I don't know, I'll just kind of horse around a little bit. So I'm like 3-betting and like triple barreling, and I work up this pretty nice stack, and then we go on a break. And I was like, man, so this place pays $20, huh? And Daniel was like, no, 20,000. It pays 20,000. And I was like, humana. And I was broke within half a level after that.
I should have told you. Maybe
as soon as I knew there was real money on the line, I was like, oh, there was a total of 27 people in this tournament.
Details of the deal scrolling along the bottom of your screen. The players have chop, but they are still playing for the title and £140,000.
So the way that it's set up, so just so I understand it, is basically
Sure.
second and third is the exact same then? So there's no jump at this point, or?
Well, they are playing.
There's nothing for second or third. That's what they've locked up.
They've locked up
I
those
see.
sums. And
Well,
then
that
wins.
actually has a major impact on the play. Because generally speaking, in a spot like this, if there was something to move up for to second, the two guys, Hagelin and Visoskas, would be sort of like kind of playing a little bit of the waiting game. But in this position, there's just no reason to.
No.
It's really win or go home.
Right, so they can play, all these
so that
huge
that
pots.
actually does have an effect on the play in terms of them being more willing to take risks. Absolutely. Stapes was actually right, just for the wrong reasons.
Important to point out that any deal done on the European Poker Tour does involve 10% of the remaining prize money being put aside for the winner. There has to be something to play for in addition to the title itself.
It was funny when you said 10% hold. I just had a feeling you were going like for you. And Stapes was doing all this work all week.
Now that is an awesome idea. Is it too late to negotiate?
Daniel has a lot of influence. Sometimes he just has to suggest something,
Yeah,
and they make it
throw
happen.
out there. Let's throw it out there. Any future deals?
I'm getting word. No, it's a no.
You mentioned Jonathan Duhamel playing in the Micro Millions. Word reaches us from our spies who are obviously railing the table on PokerStars that Chris Moneymaker is also playing a few Micro Millions events, including a $2 buy-in tournament. That will explain why he didn't show up earlier.
Yeah, I'm going to try to play some this week as well when I have some time, because I'm going to be here in London until the 24th, and then going to head back home.
Hey, buddy, I'm around if you want to hang. If you want to do hangsies.
You want to hang? You want to go see? I have to go take pictures of sites and stuff.
I'll go do sites with you. I got to work a little bit this week. We're doing some more voiceover, but
Yeah. Well, I'm playing a tournament as well, so. And the Micro Millions.
if we can make it work, I'm down to go see the Marble Arch, the Parliament,
The Parliament.
the Eye of London.
Or I had the other
Big
option.
Ben's.
The other option I have is I can go online, and I can find pictures of all these places, and then I can post them on my Facebook and pretend I took them. I mean, I could do that.
Yeah,
right?
and then you accidentally take a picture which is copyrighted and then get sued.
Oops.
Boo. Let's go see Rock of Ages.
The movie?
No, the show.
Oh, there's a show.
It was a actual musical first.
Yeah.
Not being funny, if you guys go to a musical together, people are going to talk.
People already talk.
Yeah, that's one of the, I don't mind at all. I think it's funny. Vanessa Selb secretly wants it to be true. Not even secretly. She tells me all the time.
She tried to give me the same speech.
She wants me to join the team.
Button raised from Visotskis, and this 3 bets from the big blind.
You can join her team, but you're still in a separate locker room from her.
Over my head now. This is really a little bit surprising, at like how much 3-betting we've actually seen in such a short period of time from the big blind.
All hearts, King 7-6.
I'd say generally speaking, when you're calling one of these 3 bets in position, flops like this or anything that's sort of what I'd call meaty, with has a coordinated board, are good flops to continue with whether you hit it or not. If it comes something like King 6 deuce offsuit, it's much more difficult to represent anything. So you basically have to have a set there to really represent anything big. But here, Visoskas could call with, you could even have 10 jack of spades here and call just for the sake of trying to take the pot on a later street.
And he does call. This is C-bet of 550,000.
Well, that's a complete blank. And based on the pattern we've seen with from Visser, I would expect to see him bet again here because he's been so aggressive on the turn. And I don't think Visoskas is going to fold. I think this hand's going to the river. And it's... See, this is another good spot. If you're playing against a player like Visser, you always have to adapt your game. So let's say, for example, you had the nut flush here. You wouldn't want to raise him on the turn. You kind of just want to let it. If he continues, you wouldn't want to raise him on the flop because he likes to bet the turn. So just let him continue to bet until the river and then raise him then.
So there is the second barrel from Visser.
You raise him too early, and all the bluffs that he was going to continue with, he just gives up on. So might as well let him hang himself when you've got the nuts.
1.31.
What if you don't have the nut flush?
Well, I think if it's big enough, like a jack high or 10 high or better. Well, I guess it's about the same thing. Jack high flush, you can just flat take a risk. He's calling again pretty quickly this time.
So we go to the river. Jessica's just tweeted saying, it's almost 3 in the morning here in Tokyo, and I was about to go to sleep until Daniel showed up. And now she's hooked. Well, there you go, a 4th heart. The 8 of hearts.
Those Lithuanians, they have the heart and the commitment.
Well, here's the thing, though. Visser's actually the more likely one to have the ace of hearts. Well, they're both checked. He does have the ace of hearts. Wow. And there was a jack. He checked back the jack 9 of hearts.
Wow.
Unbelievable. This was a really well played hand, actually.
This is exactly the situation I was asking why you don't, if you raise with a smaller flush because you are afraid of the fourth one coming.
Well, he actually played this hand so perfectly. Both players did, actually. Like I said, if you flop a flush here against Visser, you don't want to raise until the river. And the other factor is if another heart comes, you can save a big bet. Now, for him to check back that river with the jack of hearts, only losing to the queen or the ace and not even going for thin value, that was a really fabulous check back. And I don't mind Visser's check on the river because, if Visoskis was planning to make this big bluff on the river, you got to let him do it, So both players played it well. Wow.
Well, that was the last hand of the level. Players are going on a 15-minute break. We're going to do the same when we come back. We're still three-handed at this final table with the blinds going up to 5,100 with a 10K ante. So back with more live action from the PokerStars.net European Poker Tour shortly.